Welcome back.
Yeah, looking forward to today. Just a bit of an informal chat about shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to have a chit-chat.
Yeah, and I thought a couple of coffees might go down nicely just while we're sitting here having a sip. And Smithy, you've just hit me with
Yeah, the bombshell.
you've boycotted.
Oh, just briefly, just a week or two. I've been off the caffeine for a week. It's been bloody rough, actually.
Yeah.
Get up in the morning, I've got nothing to look forward to. Just hating my life.
My life is
wondering
done.
why I'm such a weirdo.
But it is one of those things you look forward to in the morning. Hey, it's a part of the morning ritual, that morning
Big
coffee.
time.
You know?
Yeah. I actually get excited getting out of bed, and then we turn our coffee machine on. We wait for it to heat up because it makes a better coffee if it's been turned on for sort of 20 or 30 minutes. So and I don't think it's good to have a coffee straight up anyway. I think we've sort of discussed that previously. But after half an hour, 45 minutes, I just really enjoy just making that first coffee. And so I'm missing it.
And is this cessation of drinking coffee a part of just detoxing yourself a little bit from it, and so then when you go back to it, you enjoy the benefits a little bit more of it?
I reckon, yeah. I feel like I get a bit because I drink probably 3 coffees most days, which might be a lot for some people, but I just feel like if I have a break every now and then, it just sort of resets everything and get that kick, like that first coffee back, because I do this sort of semi-regularly. Oh man, it's just it's like a cup of energy. Yeah. You do feel like making a little noise, like it's nice.
That'd be a little ritual in itself, wouldn't it? You'd have some meditation music going on. Like,
I'll make sure like I really go to town making a really good one, that first one back. Like I make sure the grind's just right. And
it'd be filthy if it was a burnt, if you burnt the beans.
Nah, chuck it. It's too important.
So how long you got to go then? How long?
I've been going for a week, so I might just go for a few more days or maybe up to another week.
Yeah.
I think they say if you do it for a week, you pretty much reset everything. So I'm probably almost out of the woods, but I also don't mind just putting myself under a bit of stress every now and then, and just I don't like feeling like I'm reliant on something that I can't control.
Yeah. So
I like to just show myself that even though I don't enjoy not having coffee, I can easily do it.
Yeah.
It's just like a little bit of a mental thing for me. So
I often think about the zombie apocalypse, and then when everything's turned to shit and it's a barren wasteland of a world, how will I get by without coffee?
Oh, man.
Like surely, okay, so initially you're going to have your service stations deserted, and shopping centres where you can go and raid the coffee fridge, stock up on ice cold coffee, whatever. But there's going to be no power to make normal coffee, so you're going to be reliant on cold, iced coffee. That'll eventually run out. Obviously, when people
couldn't you make a fire? Well, you heat the water, pour the water over the beans.
Yeah.
But
where are the beans coming from?
Where are the beans? And
didn't you get the beans from the service stations?
Yeah, there'll be beans around initially in the shops, won't there?
And you're the only person left in the world in this zombie apocalypse.
Oh no, there's other people alive. Yeah.
So that's why
so you're fighting them for the coffee.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's going to be a full on.
It's like a currency.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Coffee is a currency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if it was in an apocalyptic world, trading coffee beans.
Yeah, I reckon you'd get good money if you had good coffee.
Well, what is money really?
Well,
money's only something we give value to, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's only a tiny bit of paper. Here's $20.
Yeah.
Coffee would be the same.
Yeah.
Give you the hot tip: if the apocalypse comes and someone's got a $20 note or a fucking glass of coffee, I'll go to the coffee every time. Hey, like
coffee, yeah.
Because a $20 note's going to mean fuck all.
It's going to mean
nothing for you.
Yeah. So did you have initial withdrawal symptoms and?
Yeah, I did actually. Just like those sort of just dull all over headaches. Yeah, sort of probably had that for a couple of days.
I wonder what's going on there. I'm sure someone would know.
I think it's something to do with the caffeine changes like the blood flow in your brain. Then when you don't have it, the arteries or whatever in your brain are slightly affected by the withdrawal of it. So it's sort of like slightly different level of perfusion going through your noggin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I mean, it's definitely addictive, isn't it?
Oh, because 100%.
I only have maybe 1 or 2 a day, 3 on a really good day.
Yep.
But if I don't have that morning coffee by mid-afternoon, I will have that headache.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not nicotine, sort of heroin kind of addiction properties, but there's definitely some properties of addiction about it.
I reckon for me the most addictive thing is just the ritual of having a coffee and the taste of having the coffee. Like the headache, you kind of I find I can just not even think about it. You're sort of aware of it, but it's not in the forefront of your mind like you've just hit your fingernail with a hammer or something like that.
Yeah.
But the ritual and the taste and everything, I really miss out on that.
Did you wean yourself off with a couple of decaf days, or just went cold turkey? Yeah.
So
that's hardcore.
That is hardcore.
The tea doesn't cut it. It's no comparison. Like herbal tea, obviously not caffeinated tea, but been having like a lemon and ginger and manuka honey tea. But it's not. It's good, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I don't know. It's good to stress your body, isn't it? Like we always talk about these like hormetic stresses being good for you, like these low levels of stress that sort of. I'm not suggesting it's like a health hormetic benefit with this, but it's a similar sort of thing. Like all these low level stresses, like exercise and fasting and all the rest of it, sort of seem to be good for you. So I figure just it's good to mix it up and keep your body guessing a bit, like your eating patterns.
Yeah, I wonder what I was just on the phone to functional medicine doctor this morning, and she briefly talked about caffeine, and I don't think that she was a big fan of it. But I didn't really get into the nitty gritty of it. I really wanted to ask her about it, but you're paying by the minute, so
I reckon if you abstain from it for a long enough time, you'll eventually just shrug your shoulders and go, whatever, I don't need it. And you eventually won't miss it.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a bit like when people do the dry July, or you go for a month without having any alcohol. For those people that drink quite a bit, I think by the end of the month, you're probably you're sort of over it a little bit. Like you obviously, guys and girls would sort of look forward to that first drink back, I guess, but I don't think you'd be hanging for it every day. I wouldn't imagine.
Yeah.
Well, the drink one I've done. I did 8 weeks, and I've now got no alcohol in the house. So if I go out, we talked about the social aspect of it. I'll have a beer, but I have actually had a couple of zeros. Go sneak off, make sure nobody's watching, go to the other end of the bar, order a zero, pour it into a come back, sit with the mate. Yeah, I'm having a beer.
Some of them taste pretty good.
Some of them are good.
Yeah,
some of them are a bit watery. But alcohol for me was one that once you'd got a few days in, because it's almost hard work not having a beer in the afternoon. And if you don't have one, I've done 7 days. I can't have one now. I've ruined all that good hard work.
Yep.
14 days. No, I'm definitely not having one. When you're out past a month, it's got to be something special to break that. For me, anyway, because it was a bit of hard work. Nothing like coffee withdrawals, but even the ritual of the afternoon beer. You've had a hard day. It's been hot. It's quite good.
Yeah. I find that if I do a hard workout in the late afternoon, where I would then probably be having a beer at around an hour afterwards, it stops me from having a drink.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
And I think there's I saw that Rhonda Patrick, I think it is,
yeah.
doctor. There's something on YouTube, and I haven't looked at it yet, but apparently there is some science behind doing a strenuous workout, and the physiology of that sort of deters you from consuming alcohol after that immediately.
Yeah.
So, I find that works. So I just don't want to drink after I've done a workout.
Something maybe ancestral about that,
Yeah.
Evolutionarily, we didn't want to.
Well, then a mate of mine from work, he after he went to my 50th, he went for a whole year without drinking.
I've thought about doing that.
Yeah.
I've never had the courage to do it, because if I commit to it, I know I'll have to do it.
Yeah.
I've thought long and hard a few times of like, I should just do a year.
Well, he didn't. I think he just took it month by month. He didn't plan on doing a year.
Right, yeah.
But then when he got to like 8 months, he's thinking, man, I feel great. This is easy.
Yep.
I can keep on going. And he just kept on going. And he got to the point where he wasn't drinking so much that he just wasn't looking forward to it.
Yeah.
He just felt that he was going to be like, going backwards or poisoning himself if he started drinking again.
I definitely felt that. We talked about it being a toxin on our podcast.
Yeah.
And you do a bit of research before the podcast, you think, holy shit, what am I doing here? I shouldn't be drinking. And then I almost thought when that first one back after a couple of months, I'm like, I'm drinking a poison.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really want to.
Yeah.
I think if you verbalise, going back to for a year, I often did that. If you verbalise a few things and tell a lot of people about it, then there's external pressure. If you say, I'm not going to drink for a year, and you tell people, 1st of January, I'm not going to drink till the year after,
Yeah. But it's funny, though, because when I think about not doing it for a year, I actually couldn't care less about not consuming alcohol for a year. It's about the social ramifications and how tricky it is to manage people's expectations.
Yeah.
Like you go to a big party or something like that, and someone goes to hand you a frothy or whatever, and you're like, oh, no, I'm just not going to drink today. And they're like, oh, what? Like,
They look at you like you're strange.
hey, everyone, Smithy's ruining the party. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, you do what you want to do. Don't worry about me. I'll
Yeah.
still, be myself and have fun and whatever. But people do get genuinely, I think Australian culture especially is very centered around drinking.
Yeah, I think that's changed though.
Yeah,
I think
a little
it's
bit.
changing.
Yeah.
Like, I went into a somewhat unreputable tavern to order my 0 alcohol beer, and I think if that had happened 10 years ago, I would have been mobbed.
Like the ad when everyone stops and just looks at you. Like,
Yeah. The record screeches and
yeah.
everyone stops talking and
Someone
looks over
kicks
and
you
goes, "What? Get out." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's changed, and you can tell by the sales of 0 alcohol drinks has gone through the roof. And a lot of young people these days are doing a bit of straight edge, no drink, no drugs kind of thing.
Yep.
For health benefits, and maybe they've smarter than us and have realised that that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's uncool for this generation. Uncool to be like really hammered.
Yeah.
And like vomiting in the corner at a party or something like that.
Yeah.
It's uncool.
It's more embarrassing
thing to do back
it's a
in
badge
the
of honour for us.
80s and 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, going hard,
Spew me guts up, mate. After I sculled a bottle of something.
Wear that like a badge of honour. Yeah, I sculled a bottle of vodka and got pretty fucked up.
It wouldn't have been. It would have been the real McCoy or something.
Woke up in somebody's front garden. It was pretty wild. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I remember with those party nights where you wake up in a bush in the fetal position and you're just laying next to a pile of vomit.
Yeah.
Oh, how was the party? Yeah, it was sick. Had a great time.
Don't remember it, but I think it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, or you wake up halfway through the party and you go back into it and you got a soil stain on your cheek.
Oh, man.
You've been asleep in the garden.
You partied hard, man.
Man, I did crazy things to the point where standing up and passing out and falling forward on my face. It's just ridiculous.
That's a decent one.
Yeah.
We at uni we went pretty hard at uni, and we used to go to this pub and the guy used to make brainy busters, and I don't know what was in the brainy busters, but the brainy busters were like rocket fuel. And I remember just like knocking back a shitload of those, and then just at the car park looking at my mates, and then just like fell forward, passed out.
The
Blacked
responsible service of alcohol.
Yeah, we used to go to the Chasers bar in the city, and they used to make flaming Lamborghinis. And back in those days, they'd be $5 a flamer.
Yeah.
And so we'd knock off, we're living on $70 a week back then, and we'd knock off 3 of those, and you were hammered.
Yeah.
But then you'd still manage to hit Aberdeen, Arcadia, Rumours nightclub, by the end of the night.
Were those flaming Lamborghinis with the chasers that they'd pour in at the end? They'd have the 2 extra little shots to cool you, because they used to light them on fire. Obviously,
That's
they had
right.
the chartreuse on top.
Yes.
Yeah.
They'd light them on fire, and if you went too close to it, you'd burnt your eyebrows.
Well, I'll tell you a story. We used to do the same thing. We used to have the flaming Lamborghinis when I was a young fella, and basically because it was one of the most economic ways to drink, you could have 1 or 2 of those bad boys, and you'd be pretty well on the way to starting to get hammered, especially when you're young and you didn't have good drinking tolerance. But I remember one of our mates had just come of age, and it was his first trip into a nightclub. And so for some reason, he rocked up in a suit. I think he thought the dress code was you had to wear suits. So we were all just a bit different. But he rocks up in this green suit, like a sort of a dark green. And we line up, the 3 or 4 of us, 3 or 4 mates, and we line up 3 or 4 flaming Lamborghinis on the bar. And the guy puts the chartreuse on top, and he lights them up. And my mate in the suit, it was the first time he'd had one, and he starts drinking it. And then he's absolutely hit by how strong it was, because they're super rough going down. Like, it's not a smooth cocktail. It's like drinking rocket fuel. Pulls the straw out, and the straw's on fire, and it drips flaming drops of fire all over his suit, and he catches on fire.
Yeah, because you couldn't get the straw. You shouldn't let the straw touch the glass, because otherwise the straw would melt.
Yeah.
And then you'd get the plastic going through as you suck the alcohol.
What was in them?
I was like some crazy concoction of Drambuie and chartreuse and 3 or 4 other hardcore spirits. And then they used to tip, like in Melbourne where I was growing up, they used to tip like a cream and a blue cacao, whatever it's called, in to cool you down at the end, because you were basically drinking a cup of fire. So it was pretty hectic. Like,
full on.
Yeah, it was. If you had a couple of those, you were up and about.
Oh, I think they actually poured it into the rockets that flew to the moon. Like NASA used to use it as rocket fuel.
I reckon. Yeah.
So it was just pretty much 5 different spirits.
It was a straight glass of spirits with chartreuse on top, which is one of the strongest, I think, which was on fire. So you're drinking a whole glass, would have been what,
Yeah.
like maybe 100 mils or 120 mils or something of just straight spirits.
Yeah.
And you're necking it.
You're necking it. So you had to because it was on fire.
Through
so
a
if
straw.
You, through a
whilst
straw.
it's
So
on fire.
if you mucked around, you would either catch on fire or your straw would melt. So you had to scull it. I mean, like suck it down real hard.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was no mucking around. It was full commitment. It was like doing, I don't know, felt like doing 2 or 3 tequila slammers just immediately back to back.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Yeah.
But they've banned it now. You can't. They don't
Yeah.
let people light
Oh.
spirits on, and
I
rightly
couldn't
so.
see
You
why.
can't have
I couldn't see why they've done
dudes
that.
in dark green suits catching on fire. That thing was made of nothing but nylon. Like,
But we're talking back in the day when we were growing up, there was no RSA, whatever, responsible service of alcohol. That legislation was sort of, 10, 15, 20 years even
Away.
away,
Would you get $5 jugs? We used to go out Wednesday nights, $5 jugs in a couple of taverns,
Yeah.
$5 jug.
Yeah.
A pint's 3 times that now.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Drinking's expensive, and that's sometimes I don't understand how young people manage to afford it. It's so expensive now when you
That's why you got to preload before you go out.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
maybe that's why young kids don't drink. Just
Have
can't
a few
afford it.
prees. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Here's the thing that I've always found interesting is I think in the 80s and 90s, people used to drink a lot harder, obviously, based on what we're saying, as opposed to like today's sort of culture. But I don't remember the culture of big king hits and like guys getting really messed up as much.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether that was the media not covering it. Because it felt like maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s, it just exploded and everyone was getting king hit and people were banging their heads on the ground and getting brain dead and stuff. But I don't remember that as a young fella growing up.
Yeah, I don't remember that either, mate. And I wonder whether that's coincides with the more proliferation of speed and like those sort of drugs that get people amped up. I mean, sometimes you go into the city and you see some guys on speed or meth or whatever, and they are non-stoppable.
Oh yeah,
and they are aggressive and
they
just want to fight and hit and do anything. And I wonder whether back in the 80s and 90s, that sort of hadn't really hit the street scene yet. It was more people were just getting drunk. And I mean, if someone has a go at you and they're really drunk, you can sort of, manage defending yourself.
Maybe they're not so hammered they didn't have the coordination.
Yeah,
to
their
knock someone out or
coordination's
something.
gone, their balance is gone, they're a
Yeah.
bit slower. But with these guys on meth and speed or whatever, that's a different story.
Yeah,
You might be right.
yeah. Or was it TV and media sort of glorifying the big hits?
Yeah,
Maybe?
and
I don't
become
know.
more common.
I don't know, but I just don't remember it as a kid.
Mm.
In my sort of prime when I was doing a lot of going out and night clubbing and stuff.
Yep.
Wasn't really in my consciousness. Like,
I
you
didn't
might
really.
get,
Yeah, you're right.
you might
yeah.
get sort of king hit.
Yeah.
But then later on, I sort of became quite aware of it, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, "Shit, this is happening like a lot." And then, I saw a bit of it when I was working as a paramedic, and I definitely saw the drug side of it. And you're right; those people affected by speed and meth and stuff, they're bloody unpredictable.
Do you think society has become more violent?
Yeah,
I
100%.
reckon it has.
I think back in the day, two guys or two combatants, might have been girls, would fight sort of over something, whereas now it's like we almost fight over nothing.
Yeah.
Like you might have a beef with I remember you might have a beef with someone back in the day and two people might sort of square up and have a fight, but now it almost seems more indiscriminate. Like you could just be walking along the street and someone comes up behind you and just kind of clocks you and you've never even interacted with them.
Yeah.
Like, well, what
Yeah.
the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, totally. I remember, and we talk about the 80s and 90s and what great decades they were. I mean, I was a teenager in the 80s and I was in my 20s in the 90s, and I reckon I scored. The 80s music, the movies was fantastic. Even, the 90s music where it changed from that soft pop rock, whatever,
Glam
in the
rock.
80s, glam rock, to grunge, the grunge scene totally changed music forever. It was, they were great decades. Now I've lost my train of thought. We were talking about
music,
Fighting.
and going up and
fighting. Yeah. Well, yeah. So sorry, going back to the 80s, action hero movies, and I remember the news being freaked out about Rambo movies and stuff like that, glorifying violence and shit like that. First Blood. It's like whatever. But as the years have gone by, more violent medium have become available. So now you've got gamers that are on. My young bloke plays games where he's killing people and shooting people, and it's so lifelike, and it's like you're in the point of view perspective, so you're holding the rifle and you can see, you can line up a target and shoot them, and blood comes splurting out, or what's that? Grand Theft Auto. You know, that's a street version of death and murder and you know.
I think you could even like rape prostitutes in that or something.
Yeah.
One of the Grand Theft Auto early ones or something. It was pretty hectic. Like
yeah. So that has sort of just progressed, and I wonder whether that has over time just affected our society's mentality to violence, made it more a norm.
Yeah, it's probably all of those things, isn't it? A build-up of,
Yeah, I mean, because like
Video
when I
games,
was sitting in the passenger seat of my mum's car, I never heard the word, what's the term they use for
shotgun.
violence on the street, like drivers.
road rage.
Road rage. Yeah, you'd never heard of
wasn't
that
a thing, was
term,
it?
road rage.
No.
But it was only until probably 15, 20 years ago, well, even less than that you heard that term, road rage. And now you're seeing video footage of people getting out of cars and beating the shit out of each other.
Yep.
Like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I remember I used to work at a warehouse in the back, packing furniture for a flat pack furniture company, and we were interviewed after a hatchet attack.
Oh.
Yeah, this is like a suburban street. It's not middle of nowhere. Guy got out, hatcheted someone in the head.
Jeez.
Wow. Is this going back in the day?
Yeah, I was 18, 19.
Wow. Yeah.
At uni. That was my uni job. Yeah. Quite a violent attack for someone missing the gap and not taking off, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, who knows what was going on?
The 90s were a good decade.
Yeah.
The music was
unbelievable.
You had the growth.
It's never happened.
You had the
again.
birth of like that 90s grunge era,
Yeah.
but you also had techno coming up, and you had like groups like the Prodigy and stuff, like doing sampling for the first time, and just two sort of almost entirely new sort of styles of music.
Eagles were going well.
Eagles
Couple
going well.
premierships.
Yeah, footy was good. You know,
Footy was
90s
good.
footy was just tough, good,
Epic.
really
Yeah, it
spectacular
was
footy
good.
to watch.
Yeah.
It's not like this sort of very tightly managed
Yeah.
woke culture sort of organisation controlling every facet of it. It was just a tough
It was
spectacle. It
Yeah.
was such a spectacle.
It was, and
When
the
Sumich
VFL
got choked out in that game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The VFL back in the 80s was just a tough league. It was
Yeah.
a ball being kicked around and people getting hit.
Yeah.
You know, it was like full on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to be a warrior to go out there.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
You know, your likes of Dermot Brereton and Deja
Yeah.
Williams and
Yeah.
I think what's that guy from Carlton, Reece
Jones.
Jones. Yeah. These wild nuts like Dipia Domenico and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. They were just
They're all fearless.
hard
aren't they?
footballers. But then the 90s became a little bit more polished with the AFL coming in, but it was
Yeah.
still a good brand. It was still fast and hard.
I think like most things in the 90s, that was almost the high point of footy because it was sort of the birth of AFL athletes being actual professionals. That was the 90s was probably the first decade where it was really their full-time job and that's what they focused on. So
Yeah.
the skills got better.
Yep.
But it was still a sort of a tough, really gritty game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas now it's almost more like a field full of athletes being sort of tightly managed and almost choreographed in a way. Not really, but just
Yep.
you know what I'm saying?
I know
Like,
what you're saying.
It's very different.
It's become what back in the old days, AFL or VFL, Australian rules football was it was indigenous. It was its own thing. But then I think as it became more professional, coaches and administration looked towards other sports to get plays that they could use. So I think a lot of them in the 90s went to the basketball sort of style of plays. A lot of them looked at soccer or football, world
Zoning.
football.
Yeah.
Zoning. And
Pagans Paddock. North Melbourne had
Yeah,
Pagans
yeah.
Paddock, didn't they? And that won them a flag. And
Yeah, whereas back in the old days before the professionalism, it was more just natural, a game of attrition, of Aussie rules.
Yeah.
Before other games became or impacted on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the music was good too.
Oh,
We
The
skipped
best.
over the music.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
What are you talking? Nirvana, Pearl Jam,
Yeah.
Soundgarden,
Yeah.
Stone Temple Pilots,
Alice in Chains. All of them.
Alice in Chains. Oh, man, I
Yeah.
love that hard music. It's
Yeah.
good.
But even Metallica, Faith No More, all these bands are coming up
Yeah,
at
Yep.
that time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good music.
Yeah.
And
Amazing,
Prodigy,
yeah.
man. Prodigy was good.
Oh.
Old mate died a couple of years ago, didn't he?
Did,
Yeah.
yeah, Keith from
Yeah.
Prodigy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit tragic.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were
There was
good.
even sort of techno and
Yeah.
EDM, electronic dance music was kind of
Yep.
coming up. I remember someone trying to teach me about dance music and the mixing, and I remember them sitting down and showing me, oh, look how skillful this DJ is seamlessly putting this song into the next song. And I'm thinking, oh shit,
That's
give me
bloody
guitar and
Yeah,
drums
you're
any
saying,
day.
where's the
where
musical
is the
instrument?
skill? Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, each to their own, I guess. Whatever you like.
now
But I
you-
couldn't.
yeah.
I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah,
That
and now you've
kind
got
of-
artists sitting in a room like we are now with headphones on a computer thing like that, mixing tunes and then putting maybe some lyrics to it,
Yeah.
or mixing more tunes and
Yeah.
sort of syncing them all together.
Yeah.
And there's a song.
Yeah.
But you look
Like,
at like Carl Cox, like a famous DJ or something back in the day, just like going off his nut at a concert, and he's got a couple of decks and he's mixing in tracks, and it's all seamless, and it's pretty sick. Like it's
yeah.
a lot of skill,
Yeah. There is definite skill to
A good
electronic
yeah.
music,
especially
I
when they're
get it.
using vinyl and it's an actual human, you know, teeing all that up and working out the beats, and he's speeding one up and he's slowing one down, and he's starting to put little samples of it in so you know it's coming, and it builds the anticipation, and then they drop it and it, you know, seamlessly transfers over, and you're like, just.
Yeah.
That just really electrifies crowds, I reckon.
Oh,
like if you're at a live event, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
There's nothing
pretty
better
cool.
than going into a place and you've prepared yourself for the event, and you just walk in and it's like,
Yeah.
and you just hear that beat and it just goes through your body. You know, it's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all you can see is people drinking bottles of water. And you're like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm at one of those
Very healthy
places.
crowd here. Yeah.
Lollipop, glow stick.
Yeah. Speaking of glow sticks, did we get Mick? Is Mick on board?
He's on there somewhere.
How are we, boys?
Oh, well, mate, you would have loved the 90s. I mean, and you would have been a favourite of yours.
Oh, mate, Carl Cox.
Sail away.
That was very much that house techno scene was very much my thing. Still is. Absolutely loved all that. Was lucky enough to get out to a few of those festivals over the years, and I think it's an experience. I mean, if you look at some of those big European festivals now, it's not just the music, it's the lighting, it's absolutely phenomenal. Like it's not just a music event, it's an experience, which I think can be said for a lot of, and it's a community.
Yeah.
You know, listening to how you were describing someone trying to explain the whole effect in the show to you, Jonesy, that might have been me having that conversation with you, because I feel like I've had that conversation with people before, just in awe of how they pull the whole production together and almost their observation of a crowd as they are building up to that moment where they, you know, drop the main part of a track or introduce a different track or something like that, and that's always been something I've found really cool. And I agree with everything you guys were saying in terms of, you know, footy at that time and how engaging it was. You know, not just footy. I think growing up in Perth, what an amazing time to follow the Perth Wildcats at that stage. You know, like, I don't know if you guys ever went to the old Perth Entertainment Centre on a Friday or Saturday night, but we had big James Crawford and Ricky Grace and Andrew Vlahov, and you know, obviously they are still a highly successful team, but what an era for basketball in the country as well. You know, as a sport that was really looking to, you know, take a place in, I guess, Australian society. But yeah, what a great time! What a great time!
Was basketball over here in the early days? Was that funded by the Americans? Because I know the baseball league here is, and say the Perth Heat, they've got an affiliation with the Tampa Bay Rays. There's a couple of good pitchers over there playing for them, and I think the baseball is almost propped up completely by America. Was that the same as over here? Do you know, or was it entirely based on the fact that the popularity of basketball could manage its own? Or was it that the Americans were trying to get a foothold? Because I know that's what happened in, say, Jamaica and the West Indies. You look at the West Indies of the 80s and 90s in the cricket, they were amazing. And I think this may be speculation or conspiracy theory, but there was a lot of basketball. The Americans obviously saw a lot of potential in the basketballers over there, and they were paying to put little, 3-on-3 half courts all over Jamaica, the West Indies, and a lot of kids that probably would have played cricket big, tall, Curtly Ambrose style fast bowlers. They ended up then playing basketball, and Windies cricket hasn't been the same since. So I don't know if did that happen over here, Mick? Do you know?
I think it was Australian funded because I believe similarly to AFL where they had the Victorian Football League, they had I think it was called the Australian Basketball Association, and it was primarily an East Coast thing. And then, like the introduction of the West Coast Eagles as the first interstate team, there was the introduction of sort of the Adelaide 36ers. What were they called? The Brisbane
Bullets.
What were they? Brisbane Bullets, yeah. And then the Perth Wildcats, and then the game expanded into a national game and became the National Basketball League. But from memory, it's always been an Australian-funded sport.
Yeah. Okay.
They've gone through I can remember. I think it was the early 2010s. The National Basketball League almost became defunct.
Yeah.
Such was the poor following at that period and things like that. And but certainly that late 80s, early 90s as the game expanded was an amazing period for basketball and the game in general.
Uniforms, Trevor Torrance, 00, the old black and white sort of cross hash. They were great. I remember having a little basketball ring over my trampoline and doing dunks because of the basketball. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. Well, anyway, guys, it could be a good point to close it out with my shitty story about my trampoline.
I'm sure you're a great dunker, mate.
Maybe when you
would have been a short ring, I reckon, Jonesy.
Well, that's why I needed the trampoline, mate. But I think when you start talking about doing some dunks on your trampoline, that might be a good indication that we've had enough talking for this episode.
Yeah, well, I guess today was just a brief chit-chat, wasn't it?
Yeah, we didn't know where we were going to go. I thought we might
casual.
go sort of politics and, world events, but we've gone 90s music and...
Bit of reminiscing almost.
Yeah. We started out with your coffee and then we ended up at 90s music. So that was a pretty good little round trip
about
there.
the coffee.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right, well, pretty exciting week coming up next week, fellas. We've got
very special guest,
absolute AFL legend of the 90s, Brett Hetty, coming in. So
yeah, which ties into the 90s quite good. So
it sure does.
We did talk about that.
We did.
We did briefly touch about the Peter Sumich brawl at West Coast Footscray in the 90s, and that was probably sparked by the Steve Wallace hit on Brett Hetty.
Yeah, well, maybe we can get his take on a bit of that stuff. And
he might not remember much.
No.
Yeah. Neither did Sumich, but
no.
That was full on. That was
I think that was quite close to being a lot worse.
Yeah. Danny Southern, wasn't he a mad dog?
Yeah.
Mad dog of 90s footballer icon.
Nearly killed a man on the field.
Yeah.
Far out.
You got to lay low for a while.
Yeah. All right, well, on that note, we probably should sign off and until next week.
Yeah, until next week. Extra special guest. All right, see you later.
All right, see you later,
Get
lads.
the air guitars ready.